I liked in your book how you kind of had to set the stage, like, why the fuck skiing? Like, why skiing? And, so many people have based their whole lives around it in the last bunch of decades, right? And more, because flow is easier and easier, right? But like, why skiing? If you wouldn't mind just repeating that from the book, and people should definitely read the book.
When I set out to do it for reasons that we can talk about later, I really thought if it takes me 5 years, fantastic. I'm going to be 60 years old and I can park ski and that'll be freaking punk rock and cool. And I'm for it. And using the learning protocol I developed, I made a list of 20 tricks. That was basically zero. I had no skills. I'd never done a trick in a terrain park in my life, to intermediate. These are the standard list of tricks that an intermediate park skier can do. And as anybody who's ever tried to learn an action sport knows, once you get to an intermediate, it becomes a lot less dangerous. A lot of the stupid stuff starts going so that you don't just fall over for random reasons, which you do until you get to intermediate. And so a lot of that stuff goes away. And if you take risks, you can take better, more calculated risks. So that was my goal, get me to intermediate where it can be a little safer. I thought 5 years. It took a season. My ski partner, who's 20 years younger than me, he was a former sponsored rider who had gotten injured, left the sport, had a family, had a career, came back with me. And he used the same protocol and made more progress than he'd actually made even when he was a sponsored rider doing this professionally. And we both went, oh my God, this is amazing, but this is just the coolest pilot study anybody's ever run. This isn't really data. This is just like Steven and Ryan's crazy adventure with a bunch of these ideas. So the next year we came back with 17 older adults, ages 30 to 70. I was an expert skier. I just never been in a terrain park. These were intermediate snowboarders and skiers. And in 4 days on the mountain, we got them dangerous in a terrain park using this same protocol. And we've since stripped action sports out and tested it with like 300 other people in a different way. We can talk about that later. My point is, the story of these experiments, that's what's told in the book. Really, my first one and my ski partner's experiment, that's really what the book focuses on. And the last bit I'll say, and the reason it does this, besides all the things about peak performance aging, I was trying to solve a problem for the Flow Research Collective. We train people. We train tens of thousands of people every month, and we train people in 130 countries. And we train everything from like US Navy SEALs to Facebook and Accenture and Audi and Google and on to like mom and dad and soccer moms and soccer dads in Iowa and Indiana. And so it's everybody. So you just scope people and global. So I get to see these patterns over and over and over again. And one of the patterns that we keep seeing is it is really hard to explain from a stage applied peak performance. What do these tools look like on a day-to-day basis is an impossible thing to try to tell people. And it was most of my other books, which are about the neuroscience of peak performance one way or another. If I were to put in the applied stuff, they would have doubled or tripled in length and nobody would have wanted to read them, and they were boring to read and write out, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, let me also write about applied peak performance, because the only way I can go A to B with this is to take everything I know about flow science and peak performance and see if I can use it to accomplish this so-called impossible task.